cards, okay?
Is it on your? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I see
Okay.
the screen now. Yes.
Here I have some hole
Looking.
cards. It's a very, very simple matrix of hole cards.
Uh-huh.
And what we're going to be talking about now here is what kind of flops that we're going to get when we have these hole cards. Okay?
Okay.
It's very, very basic, but it's just something that's it's a good reminder for most people. So let's start with the pocket fours. In your own words, what kind of flops are you going to get when you have pocket fours?
You're going to usually have an underpair to the whole board.
Mm-hmm.
So 5, 7, 10.
Yeah. So would you rate that? So if you have to rate the showdown value of your hand on a lot of board textures, would you rate that as high, middle, or low?
I'd say middle to low. I'd say it's more low than middle.
Okay,
Low.
I agree. I agree. And then sometimes you're going to flop sets, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, we don't usually have that many implied odds versus many players to, you know.
We will talk about that. Now let's just focus on what kind of flops you're going to flop here. So you're going to flop sets and marginal showdown value.
Yes, but yeah, but yeah.
Okay. What about pocket nines?
We're gonna flop sets and medium showdown value.
Okay. What about pocket?
I would say yeah.
Yeah, let's.
Pocket queens.
Mm-hmm.
Pocket queens is high showdown value and yeah, set.
sometimes we're gonna misclick and call pre-flop. Yes.
Yeah.
So let us talk a little bit about which of these first three hands would you be more happy to call two streets with against a player that is an unknown?
Call two streets with.
Yeah, he bets the flop.
It would be pocket queens, obviously, because it's a higher showdown value.
Precisely. Okay, good. So just to call well, let's talk about the next row here. Jack 5 offsuit. What kind of flops are you going to flop here?
A pair, a weak pair. Mainly, you're probably going to flop nothing.
Yeah, often we're going to flop nothing. Sometimes we're going to flop a jack. So we're going to flop. Our hand would be then like a bluff catcher, right? If we also call with queens and nines and fours pre-flop, our hand is in a lot of situations would be bluff catcher if we call a c-bet, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we're sometimes going to flop a bluff catcher if you spike a jack with the 5. You can probably also call your hand a bluff catcher.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. What about ace 8 offsuit?
Well, that's you're gonna flop also medium showdown value. It's a hand that causes a lot of problems because you can get into a lot of reverse implied odds situations. So you got to be careful on any kind of ace or 8 board. You don't want to be putting too much money in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So on King Jack?
King Jack, we will usually flop top pair if we flop a pair. So we've got good showdown value.
A good bluff catcher.
Yeah, it's a strong bluff catcher.
Okay. Next row here. What are you going to flop with the ace 7 suited?
Mainly a lot of draws. Usually, sometimes big combo draws and pairs, medium pairs, which will either have little showdown value or medium showdown value.
Yeah, so we're going to get some. We can flop a bluff catcher, we can flop draws, and we can flop air.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Go well, yeah.
Ace 6 suited.
Any of the bottom 6, you can flop air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, ace 6 is similar to ace 8, except that this time you can flop the nut flush draw.
Which is nice.
Yeah, which is nice because then we beat his other draws.
Yeah, and
the thing,
we have a lot of equity against almost any hand he has.
yes, yeah. The thing is with these draw, if you flop a draw, you're rarely playing against another draw.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So the
mean,
main value of ace-6 suited is that we can flop a bluff catcher, and we can flop a hand that can flop a good draw that allows us to put pressure on our opponent.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
See, I take it we're going to go into spots where we will call in these situations, because if someone raises under the gun and they're like, I don't know, 14% opener, I'd usually fold that just because I feel like, oh, I'm going to flop an ace or I'm going to flop a draw and I don't know how to play it.
Okay. We'll be talking about that.
So, okay.
What about the king queen?
King queen, we're going to flop strong pairs and strong draws as well.
Yeah, maybe some weak draws with gut shots and Sarah, but yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
It's very good, very good. So now we have an idea of what kind of flops that we're going to be flopping with these hands, okay? Now let us talk a little bit about how you are going to be raking these hands. Let's say, I'm going to ask you some questions here, okay? Let's say that you decide to call pre-flop with pocket nines, and you also decide to call pre-flop with ace-7. It's in your calling range against a specific player.
What, ace-7 suited?
8-7 suited. 8-7 suited, yeah.
8-7. Okay,
8-7. The bottom right here, this hand here. I'm going to use a highlighter here.
Okay. Yeah. No.
Not this one. This one. This hand.
Okay.
And this hand. Okay.
Okay.
Now, you call with the 8-7 suited, and you flop a pair, backdoor flush draw. You get the same flop a few minutes after, where you flop a 9, and you have the 9s, right? Same flop, and you have pocket 9s. In which situation are you more likely to call a c-bet?
The one with ace 8-7.
Why?
Because we have greater equity when behind.
Precisely. When we are making a mistake here, the mistake that we're making is smaller. And the showdown value we have with 8-7 suited, the times we flop a pair, is more or less the same as we have with pocket 9s. And there are a lot of cards that can come on the turn that allows us to either bluff raise, turn our hand into a bluff. With the 8-7 suited, for example, if we pick up a flush draw, we can use it to put more pressure on our opponent if he's c-bet bluffing a good chunk of the time on the turn, or c-betting with too wide a range with too many weak hands that cannot really stand the shove on the turn. Where with the pocket 9s, we are calling, praying to God that he's not betting a lot on the turn river, because then it becomes very difficult for us to get the showdown, since the times that we're making a mistake, we're making a big mistake, and the times that we are correct, we don't even have, that good equity, since, he often has overcards to our pocket 9s. So.
Yeah.
Good.
Makes sense.
Good. Now, same scenario. You have same flop. With the a6, you happen to flop top pair. And with the 7-6, you happen to flop second pair. And villain here, he c-bets again. In which situation are you more happy to call? The c-bet.
Ace. I'd say ace. Just because we have higher showdown value.
Okay. So when you're playing against an opponent, and you have suited cards in your pre-flop calling range, would you say that it's fair, or is it fair to say that you should start calling with suited aces before you should start calling with suited connectors?
Yes. Yeah, you should, because we have higher showdown value.
We have higher showdown value, and the fact that we have top pair here with the ability to flop top pair, and the times that we're bluff catching a lot of the time with with the 8-7 suited is in a spot where we expect him to c-bet a lot, which is, ace high, king high flops. But here with the ace, because we have the ace, it's less likely that he has the ace, which means that we are going to be correct with our bluff catching more frequently.
Yeah, and when he has something like king jack, he'll have 0% equity usually.
Precisely.
Whereas with A7, 8-7, he'll have 25% equity.
Okay, good. So
yeah, that's what I meant with the higher showdown value.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So with that clear, you should start calling with suited aces before you start calling with suited connectors.
Okay. Okay. I never thought of it like that, but yeah.
Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
There's a lot of people who will call with the don't like to call with the suited aces because they think, oh, I put myself in a reverse implied up spot.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, and
exactly
that carries a lot of truth, but then it's probably because they start calling with the suited hands a little bit too early.
What do you mean too early?
Meaning that the player that they're playing against does not have a wider range, a range wide enough. Because if the guy is really tight, let's say he has a 9% range or 10% range, which is something that a lot of people have under the gun, it's probably a mistake to call with bluff catchers.
Yeah.
Bluff catchers is not what you want to have. You want to have something that can flop the nuts. And you're not going to flop the nuts with ace-6 suited unless you flop 2 pair.
Yeah.
And that's no good. That's no good. You want to have pocket pairs in your calling range there, spike a set, stack the dude. That's how you play.
Okay, so if you've got a really tight opener, you don't even call with suited connectors either.
No, the suited connectors are terrible because we don't have any folding equity with time with flop and draw.
Okay, so we just call with pocket pairs.
Yes.
Okay, I think that was my big mistake.
Yeah, it's something that you hear in a lot of videos. People, they say weird stuff, and I have for a long time just ignored it because I thought, okay. If people really think that, but I think that this logic here that makes sense to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about.
I was going to say this is the problems that I get stuck with. When players have a semi-tight range, I don't know what to class as a loose range or tight.
14%.
Yeah, there's someone opening 14% under the gun.
Well, I start calling with suited aces.
You will start, okay. Okay, because I'm like, I don't know what to do if he's gonna barrel me or if he's gonna, it's gonna be a really tough situation. So I'm just like, oh, I'll muck.
But let's talk a little bit about it. If he has a lot of suited aces in his opening range, then you probably want to look at something like ace-10 to call it.
Okay.
Because then the kick up begins to play a little bit. Because you don't want him to win a respectable part from you with ace-9. You have ace-6.
All right, yeah.
So you can look out for that. Ace-10 then. But I like calling with suited aces because, the likelihood that he has an ace when I have an ace is the same likelihood as flopping a set. So nobody flops a set. That's unfair.
Yeah.
And people, they bluff a lot, c-bet a lot. So, yeah. I don't mind.
Okay.
So let us talk a little bit about what we should be thinking about is that we should always, when we find ourselves in a bluff catching spot, we should ask ourselves, okay, when is this guy going to reach a point of honesty? Never pass the point of honesty with a bluff catcher. Ask yourself that before you call the first c-bet. Because if you think that, okay, this guy is going to reach a point of honesty on the turn, I call. You call. He bets again on the turn. Now there's a bigger chance that you can get a fold. Because sometimes, obviously, he's going to be destroying you. A top pair good kicker.
Yeah.
But if you say, okay, he's going to be betting here, he is probably going to be reaching a point of honesty here on this board section, on the river, which is the case for a lot of players on ace-high semi-dry flops because they bet the turn, they bet the flop, bet the turn because, you know, people call with too wide a range. On the flop, you should think about, okay, how wide is my perceived calling range? Is he going to try to barrel me off my hand? If you think that is the case, then his point of honesty is going to be on the river. Because when you call the flop, call the turn, you have an ace, and he's never bluffing the river.
Okay. There are some players that do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
then you write
kind of rare.
insane as
It's
a
rare,
no.
100%, but you do get the odd lag, or maybe okay, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
or fish that.
you can, yeah, well, whatever. You get a macro players there that are going to make life a little bit harder on you. Okay. So what 14% is where I start bluff catching a good chunk. That means I will be calling with suited aces and suited broadways in position. King Jack suited, King Queen suited, and suited aces.
Okay, that's one thing I was going to say. I know a lot of people 3-bet hands like King Jack, and I've been doing that as my default because getting into basically, if you call, you get yourself into bigger. You end up losing bigger pots and winning smaller pots. When you flop a pair, if you got something like King Jack.
But it's actually
So,
not the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is that the value of your hand goes down, of King Jack goes dramatically down if there's not a high value for you in bluff catching.
Okay.
Because that's
Okay,
when it's going to flop. So it has very little value post-flop. So 3-bet or fold pre-flop.
Okay. Okay.
Which is why you should 3-bet King Jack against a guy with a tight range and not against a guy with a wide range, as many people, for some weird reason, say, because that is when the King Jack has value post-flop.
Well, against a tight range?
No, against a wide range. You should 3-bet King Jack against a guy with a tighter range, something like 10%, 11%. 3-bet King Jack, it's fine. He's going to 4-bet you sometimes, so be it.
What, 10 or 11%?
Yeah, just 3-bet the dude.
I never would 3-bet that because I think, okay, they're just going to call, and then I'm...
No, it's a good spot to 3-bet King Jack here. You can fold to a 4-bet, and they're going to fold a lot of hands. They're folding hands like Ace Jack offsuit. There are a lot of Ace Jack offsuit in their range. They might call you with Ace Queen. A lot of Ace Queens in their range. And if you find a C-bet on the flop, bingo, if they don't hit their Ace or Queen, they have to fold. Then they'll call you with something like pocket 10s, pocket 9s, but against them, you have a good amount of equity. Pocket Queens are better, Aces and Kings are better. All the hands that have you dominated, they ship it in pre-flop, in which case you just say, oh, sorry, you had a hand. next. So King Jack is a really good hand to 3-bet against a guy with a tight range.
Okay. I also do that with King Queen, though, but you're saying that people do call with Ace Queen.
Yeah, so that has some reversed implied odds a little bit there.
Okay.
So King Queen is a little bit, but you can also 3-bet King Queen. It's fine. You know,
yeah.
The chances of you both hitting a queen is like flopping a set, so it's not that big of a deal. Card removal has a lot of effect. From the fact that you have an ace and a king and a jack, a king and a queen makes it less likely that he has a strong hand. So very often he has some medium-sized pocket pair that he now is forced with a tough decision on either to fold or 4-bet out of position. Yeah, I think you should 3-bet out of position, not in position. In position, not out of position.
Yeah.
When you're 3-betting the tight guys, right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Because this is a bluff.
Yeah.
This is
and then they fold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bluff, yeah.
Good. So you think of it as a bluff.
Yeah.
Good. Now, let's talk a little bit about a guy with a wider range. How do you make money against a guy with a wide range? We have talked about how to make money against a guy with a tight range. You don't bluff catch because they're not bluffing very often. You simply don't pay them off. That's how you make money against them, because you don't make any mistakes. And the reason that you're not making any big mistakes is because they are not bluffing very often. It doesn't make sense to bluff catch. You don't try to bluff them off their hand because they're not bluffing very often, so you don't have folding equity. And last but not least, you tighten up your pre-flop calling range, because otherwise you'll be calling a lot too much pre-flop and folding post-flop, which is a leak. So, but against a guy who has a wide range, how do you make money against a guy with a wide range?
You bluff catch, and you have hand, and you bluff.
Yeah, precisely.
Semi-bluff, I should say.
Yeah, well, you bluff and you bluff catch. You move him off his hand, you put pressure on him. Now, you can do that in several ways. You can do that pre-flop by 3-betting him. If he's out of position with a wide range, going to be very tough for him to call with enough hands for your 3-bet not to be profitable.
Okay, yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, no,
unless
that makes sense.
unless he wants to start to defend with a wide range, which then leads to a post-flop situation where he again has a wide range, and they just barrel him until he understands that folding is now the right thing to do.
Okay.
So, and if he happens to wake up with a hand, you're just running bad against his range.
Yeah.
But the problem is the people, they often think that a guy with a wide range pre-flop also have a wide range post-flop in the 3-bet pot, and that is not necessarily the case. Because they may be defending light in position, but out of position they're generally not defending light unless they're stupid, and that's going to be reflected pretty quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And I shouldn't say stupid. I should say very stupid. No, no. You know what I mean. They have a problem. They're out of position. Unless they're very good post flop, it's going to be a problem if they defend too light.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, there are some of these hands that increase in value against a guy who has a wide range. Suited connectors, suited aces, suited broadways, king jack, they all increase in value against a guy who has a wide range, especially if he's c-betting a lot, because then he also has a wide range on the flop, which then means that bluff catching, raising, and generally applying pressure to him is going to increase in value. Whereas a hand like pocket fours is going to have a lot of problems post-flop, because he can have second pair that's going to outkick you. He's going to have a lot of things. And people, they're often mistakenly starts to call with pocket fours, pocket nines against a guy who has a wide range. But if he's also barreling the turn or in any way aggressive on turn river, getting them to showdown and making a profit from them is going to be a very marginal spot. Whereas if you flop a pair with your suited connector, suited ace, you can bluff catch with a lot of equity, and there are a lot of cards in the turn that can increase your equity. And that means at the times that you are making a mistake, the mistakes will be smaller. So that is why it is very, very important that you have those hands in your range. The pocket pairs has less value.
Okay, so it's more important for me to have the suited connectors than it is to have pocket pairs.
Yeah, they have more playability post-flop.
Would you fold pocket pairs then pre-flop?
No.
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 Okay.
No. I want to flop sets. I'm like everybody else. But the fact is,
I've been looking in my database for my how much I've won from cold calling with pocket pairs, and I'm not making a thing. Well, I'm actually losing from calling with pocket pairs pre-flop, and that's including in position.
It's probably because you call too much on the flop.
Okay, I should
And
actually
don't get to showdown. If you call on the flop with a pocket pair, it is because you want to go to showdown, and you think that you can go to showdown against his opponent.
Okay.
Period.
Yeah, I think I end up calling one and folding the turn, but tank folding the turn all the time.
Writing thing in chat, as if you don't have it. Good bluff, so something like that.
Yeah.
So pocket pairs, because they don't really flop much equity, you can play fit or fold. But against a guy with a wide range, because you have more folding equity, it is less relevant that you have a lot of equity the times that you pull the trigger on him and turn your small pocket pairs into a bluff.
Okay.
Because you have so much folding equity.
Yeah.
Because you are bluffing with other hand suited connectors, suited aces, and you have sets, obviously, the fact that you sometimes tag a pocket pair and rub the board texture in his nose makes it less of a mistake from a balanced strategy point of view. And it's going to be insanely difficult for him to show up with good bluff catches often enough with the right timing against your tendencies post-flop that he can actually do much about it.
Okay, yeah. In terms of us calling with, let's say we call with 8-7. We defend from the blinds. Guys opening 35% on the button. Let's say we defend and the flop's middle pair and we have the backdoor flush draw. What frequency are we going to be bluffing on the turn with? Are we doing it all the time? Are we going to be bluff catching most of the time again? I mean, if it's, let's say, versus... I mean, how do you decide someone's point of honesty? That's the first thing. What gives you your inclination for that? And then what makes you decide, oh, I'm going to bluff now?
Well, first of all, we need to look at how often this guy seems to be c-betting when he's opening a late position. This is something that is very easy for us to pay attention to while playing. Because if we call him a reasonable frequency from the blinds, we find ourselves in this situation a lot. And if he seems to be c-betting often, his range on the turn is going to be wide. Okay?
Okay.
So, the next thing I ask myself is, okay, does my range for calling this flop here look weak? If I, for example, flop bottom pair on an ace-queen 7 board, I will be bluff catching the flop, check folding the turn.
Okay.
On the other hand, if the flop comes ace 7-5, and he c-bets the flop and I check call, I am probably not giving up on a lot of turn cards.
Okay.
Because I expect him to be barreling me on the turn with a higher frequency here because I didn't check raise him. Because if I have a good hand there on that board, I'll probably be check raising him. And there are a lot of medium strength pocket pairs that are check calling that flop, pocket 9s, pocket 10s, pocket jacks, 7x hands, and it's hard for me to withstand any pressure with those hands on the turn. But here I had 5 outs, so I might check call, check raise the turn, especially if I pick up a flush draw.
Okay. But there's a lot of, well, especially on iPoker Network, I see people raising to like 4 pre-flop, 4 big blinds, and then betting full pot nearly on any flop. So that when you're on the turn, so let's say they open 4, you call, it's 8, and then they bet 7, and then you call. The pot's like over 20 on the turn, so their bet is effectively 18 or 16 blind, and you're in a spot where if you check raise, you can check raise small, but it'd be like to 40, and then you're committing yourself anyway.
Yeah, you might as well
or
check
you can just
shove.
just check shove. And it's a spot where I'm like, oh god, I don't really know if it's going to hold top pair, or I don't know how to. I don't know the best counter strategies against people who c-bet large.
Check raise.
Or just check shove the turn.
No. If they c-bet the flop large, you should both just be check raising them a lot. If this is guy, if you can bluff catch a flop, you can also check raise the flop. Hey, you got 5 outs. It's not so bad if he has an ace and decides to bluff catch. He's not going to shove on you. Why is he going to re-raise you on the flop if you check raise? That'd be really weird.
Okay, so I have to ask you, what should I? So let's say the pot is 8 on the flop, or 8.50. And they bet $7 into this 8. What should our check raise size be?
What are you trying to get him to fold?
I'm trying to get him to fold, well, just his air.
Yeah. How much do you think it will require for you to get him to fold his air?
16.
A little more that's in the pot, yeah, it's fine.
Is it? The reason why I ask is that sometimes, let's say the flop is like Jack 5-4, and I bet the flop, and they bet with Ace Queen. They'll call with Ace Queen, or they'll call with even like King Queen because they've got overcards. Because it's like, oh, the odds are small, so I'll call to try and hit the turn.
Okay, then it's a nice thing for you to check raise with these bottom pairs, or second pair with 5 outs, because if you check raise and they call, they should have 6 outs against your hand, but then your check raise is a protection check raise, and you're doing it actually for value because their calling range is so wide.
Okay.
So it's not it's not that big of a problem. Obviously, you should not go berserk here. But you should just, and there is no silver bullet. It's not like you can say that, okay, you should do this against everybody and your frequency should be like this. You have to pay attention to how much they see bet. Not by how much, I mean how frequently they do it. Because it's only going to work if they see bet too frequently. The check raise is fundamentally against a guy with a wide range, a bluff. Because I don't know how often you have tried to flop a set from the blinds and check raise and he then folds. He does that all the time. So try to check raise more in spots where he has a lot of air and you're just trying to get him to fold his air. And you don't need to check raise that big, because if he starts calling you super light with overs and stuff like that, it's not really that big of a problem, because he's not really going to get there that frequently, and he doesn't have that much equity against you, so you just get the showdown. And I don't think they're trying to get you to fold by bluffing you off your hand post-flop.
Okay.
Why should he try to bluff a guy off his hand and just check raise the flop? That would be pretty advanced, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I can be quite paranoid sometimes.
Yeah, don't be. Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that they're not out to get you. Oh, that was wrong.
That was the other way around.
The other way around.
Paranoid that they're not actually out to get you.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Cool. Okay. So try to manipulate your preflop calling ranges and laying out strategies for each type of hands against each type of player. That way, you're going to be putting yourself in less spots where you're folding the flop, less spots where you don't have a plan, and more spots where your opponent are going to be running into your range with too high a frequency, in the sense that you will be having a good bluff catch, or you will be having a hand that will allow you to put pressure on him. So that is that is really important.
Okay.
Because some people will say, well, why do you call with suited connectors against the guy with a wide range? Well, you don't have any implied odds. Well, suited connectors never really was a hand that you would like to call with because of implied odds.
Okay. I think that's a big mistake of mine then.
Sometimes you're going to flop straight draws, disguised draws, weak disguised draws that allows you to really stack your opponent because you hit this gut shot or something like that, which is great. It's fine. But most of the time you're going to flop flush draws of some sort that are, like Bobo Fidos calls them, aggressive gambles. It's draws that you generally use because you want to put pressure on your opponent. But if a flush draw is generally a hand that you want to use to put pressure on your opponent, you should seek out opponents against which you have folding equity. Otherwise, there is no need to put pressure.
Yeah, otherwise it's just spewing money.
Yeah, it's just spewing. So, yeah. Okay, so this was a little bit about adjusting your preflop calling ranges and post-flop strategies according to the player. So there's a little bit to work on here. What I want you to do in this following week here, if you play poker, is to play fewer tables and to start taking poker very seriously by having a routine, sitting down, being patient, and being focused while playing. And when you're playing, you should pay really good attention to, okay, how focused am I? And if you are finding yourself not being focused by surfing or writing to somebody on IM or going YouTubing or writing an email or reading a PM on some message board or whatever, take a note on it. Because you only have to, you're at work here. You're trying to do your best. It's 45 minutes. Stay focused and do the best you can. And while you're doing that, pay really good attention to your opponent and try to figure out what kind of hands you want to be playing against them from different positions.
Okay.
So this is one of the... yeah, sorry?
I'm gonna, next time I'm gonna full table, try it. I'll see how it works. I'll try the first session with the hard and then one without a hard. And
yeah, but
so
the hard is not the biggest. The hard is not the biggest problem here. The hard is probably you losing a little bit of patience and not being really focused and stretching your sessions a little bit too long and stuff like that. So don't worry too much about it. Don't try to fix everything in one. It's impossible.
Okay.
So just have a little patience with yourself. Now, what I wanted to say here is that calling in the blinds with hands like suited connectors, suited aces, broadways like King 10 suited, Queen Jack suited, King 9 suited, Queen 10 suited, all those hands is something that you can do against a player with a wide range if you have a good, solid post-flop strategy against him. Meaning that you need to be able to put pressure on him.
Okay.
Because,
what I want to ask you is, where would you, what's the boundary for having a wide range? Because I think people who are open even 20%, I don't think that's like wide.
No, that's a tag net. I think a guy from the bottom who has a PFR range of say 30 is a good guy to start battling with.
Okay, so what should my standard be if I'm dealt 8-7 suited and a guy who's got a 21 or 21%?
I would probably call. I'll probably call, but I would throw away the bottom of my suited Broadway hands and use them to 3-bet instead. Only call with the premium Broadway hand, something like sometimes I'll 3-bet King Queen suited if I can 3-bet King Queen suited for value against him if he's calling wide enough post pre-flop. Sometimes I will just call with it and be check raising with it, bluff catching, leading a lot of flop, generally playing aggressive against him. But I'll call with pocket pairs, but I'll probably play a fold on the flop unless it's pocket nines and above. And pocket nines and above I might call with once or twice, depending on his double barrel tendencies.
Okay.
The suited connectors I will be check calling with when I flop a pair, check raising with when I flop any draw whatsoever. Flush draw, caught shot, open-ended straight draw.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Check raise. If
okay, I'm usually quite passive in my draws. I usually quite check call.
I have a bat, and it's either aluminium or polished wood, depending on my mode. But I will have a bat, unless he is really going to put a lot of money in on a lot of turns. Then I'll probably, with my strongest draws, check call the flop and check shove the turn.
Okay, wait. Can you say that bit again? I didn't quite get that. So
if he's really aggressive and bets the flop, bets the turn a lot, and he has a reasonable wide range, say something like 25-30%, and he double barrels a lot from late position, if I have that read on him, it's not so he needs to have the read right. He bets the flop, bets the turn a lot. When I have a draw of a flush draw, right, I probably check call the flop, check shove the turn.
Okay.
And I will do the same with the set. So I merge the way that I play my strong draws, or aggressive gambles, flush draws, and what you call it, sets here. And the reason that I do it like this is because I'm not really afraid of protecting my hand if I have a set there, because when you just check call a flop where there's a flush draw on, right, it looks a lot like you have a weak hand. Because if you had a strong hand, you would check raise because you would be afraid of scare cards in the turn or action killers, right? So an aggressive guy is going to use your check call as a sign of weakness, which means that he's going to try to barrel you off your hand a lot on the turn.
Okay.
So
would you ever have a check raising range on the flop versus this guy?
Yeah, I would. I would probably be on, for example, this ace-high flop. Ace-high flops, I'll probably be check raising ace-jack, ace-queen. I'll be check raising sometimes a set. I'll be check raising complete air that doesn't allow me to do anything, and I'll be check raising weak draws.
Okay.
For example, if I have a gut shot but no flush draw to go with it, a check raise flop, it's fine because the vast majority of his range is going to be bluff catches anyway, so I'm not afraid that he's going to shove on me. And there are a lot of turn cards that allows me to continue with the bluff.
Okay. So this is the super aggressive guy. So if someone's more passive on the turn, we want to be check raising the flop more.
Yeah, then I will be check raising.
Semis.
Yeah, because I don't want to be check calling, checking the turn, hoping to get a free card on the river, not really knowing.
Yeah.
Then I want to take control of the hand and just barrel him, check raise, and then
Okay. I'm very passive out of position.
Yeah,
extremely
that's
passive.
extremely bad, unless the guy is a nit. Because against a nit, you should just play fiddle fold. Against the guy who has a wide range, you should bring your bat. Either by, if he's not c-betting a lot of flops, you're just leading a lot of flops. Because whenever you have something, good equity in the pot, the fact that your range here out of position is actually stronger than his opening range means that your equity on a random flop is going to be higher than his. So you should in general just be shoveling money into the pot, and you'll be putting him in a tough spot where he now has to bluff catch, where he now has to play back at you, and it's going to be hard because your range is stronger. So you're just taking your range and then hitting him on the head with it until he leaves.
Okay. So I'm just trying to piece this all together. Okay, this is the last one. So what players are we trying to bluff catch twice? I mean, if we're check raising our draws against people who bet the flop and check the turn a lot, and we're check calling and check shoving versus the aggressive players.
When are we ever check calling?
Yeah, I know.
These hands. These are your friends.
Okay. Okay.
They got ace-6 suited here. Top pair boards. He barrels, bet the flop, bet the turn. You check call.
And then very occasionally with second pair.
Yeah, and on the occasional second pair, you're gonna check call with. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
The idea here is to make sure that the times that you do go for the expensive bluff catch, you maximize the likelihood that the bluff catch is going to be working by using card removal and showdown value strength. Because when you bluff catch with hands that where it is possible, because for him to have top pair or an overpair to your hand, you are actually just praying for your 5 outs. But here you're bluff catching him, saying, okay, it's less likely that he has something, but he's probably barreling. He cannot see your cards, right? So you might as well decide to bluff catch in the spots where it is more likely that your bluff catch is going to be working. As a start, at least. If he's insane and just bluffing right, left, and center, then you can expand by starting to call with something like 8-7 suited when you flop a pair, and maybe something with pocket jacks, pocket tens that has, it begins to look like good showdown value. There's less likely that he's going to be sucking out with one of his overs.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I usually don't ever call with pocket jacks or pocket tens, especially out of position at my...
Yeah, I will. Depends if I can 3-bet pocket tens for value, and I'm sure I can. I will 3-bet it. Pocket jacks, I'm almost always 3-betting. Pocket nines, pocket tens is a little bit slimmer.
Yeah, pocket nines I always tend to call.
Yeah. It depends. It depends a lot on villain. I need to be sure that I can play it profitably in a 3-bet pot before I start doing it. Otherwise, I tend to like calling with it. But let's talk a little bit about here. When should we consider 3-betting pocket nines? Well, if we often are going to find ourselves a spot where this guy here, he's going to be double barreling a lot, pocket nines loses post-flop value in single raise pots.
What if he's barreling a lot?
Yeah, because a lot of the time,
value.
It loses value in a single raise pot because you don't have much equity the times that you are wrong. So unless that you flop a set, you don't have the showdown value goes away. He's betting. You know, he's using scare card. He plays well here in position as the pre-flop aggressor.
Okay.
The nines to get really tough, right? Unless you flop a set.
Yeah.
So in that spot, you can make an argument for 3-betting pocket nines because they are really going to put you in a lot of tough spots post-flop in single raise pots if he's good aggressive in position. If he's not that aggressive, pocket nines should be a default just call, and the same goes for pocket tens, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think I'll start looking at the villain a lot more now, especially his c-betting habits. That's something I wasn't looking at carefully enough, but
Okay, good.
that's the note that I'm going to do.
So I hope you learned something today.
Certainly have.
I recorded our whole speak here about the hole cards.
Sorry?
I recorded our whole discussion here about the different hole cards.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna upload it and ship you a link if you want it. If you want.